Yo, people, welcome back to On Track GP, reacting to the Brazil qualifying session with my boy Coil in the building. Bro, how are you feeling today? How you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Matisse. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, bro. Not too bad. I'm seeing the qualifying results and I'm seeing my boys not really in the position I would have liked, but there are some surprises. Obviously, Verstappen leads. We already knew that would be the case, despite the fact that Norris was kind of pushing him a little bit in the different qualifying sessions. I guess we just expect that to be the race, isn't it? Where Verstappen just clears off into the distance. We saw what happened in Mexico. When this guy is even starting with a disadvantage, he still manages to get ahead. The weather didn't cause him any problems today, it seems.
No, I thought the way that it was, people were talking before the session that there was going to be a bit of rain throughout the middle of it, and maybe becoming a bit of a problem for the drivers. But it didn't really hit towards the end or until the end, and then of course when it hit the end, it was a much bigger problem than everybody thought it would be. So a bit of a shame we didn't see a little mix of rain to kind of spice it up, but that's just the way it is sometimes in Interlagos.
Yeah, we saw a couple of people spinning today, struggling to keep control. Leclerc in second, really good for Ferrari to be on the second row. They have been qualifying quite strongly with him and Sainz over the last couple of weeks, but they just haven't made it stick in the race. Will that happen on the Sunday? I'm not confident, but I hope so for Joe. But talk to me about Aston Martin, because they're in a third and fourth, Stroll and Alonso in these positions. On previews, on many shows before coming in the lead up to this race, there wasn't really much hope for Aston Martin in terms of the rest of the season. It was kind of just get the season done. You had a great start and see what you can build on for next year. But they're in some serious positions for some serious points. Talk to me about these two.
Yeah, it was a fantastic result for Aston Martin today. I mean, big up to Stroll for qualifying Fernando. He's up there in P3.
Yeah.
I think the result in qualifying was a lot to do with kind of timing and just getting those laps in before that rain hit. But in terms of general performance throughout the weekend so far, I know we've only had one practice session, but it did look like that they were generally a little bit closer than they have been in Texas or in Mexico lately. So yeah, it's good to see. It shows that the car still has a little bit of life left in it, and I suppose it's circuit dependent, but they can still be up there.
We obviously had that red flag as well. Conditions very difficult. Who do you think is really out of all of these drivers in this top 10? Obviously, we see Perez in ninth. We see, well, I know we know Oscar had a problem at turn 12. He had a struggle as well. Sainz is down there. Norris not really where he'd want to be as well behind the Mercedes. Who do you think has probably suffered the most from these weather conditions? I'd say.
I'd say probably the McLarens and Perez. They should be up there, really up there. I mean, Norris in particular was fighting for P1 through Q1 and
Yeah.
Q2. So he was kind of a given that he was going to be up there in the top three positions at least. So
Yeah.
I think it was Max was saying after the session that a gust of wind hit as well as the rain coming down at turn 12. So that was a big problem. And a few drivers like we've seen Piastri and Norris just get caught out a little bit. It's a bit of a shame, but they're not starting too far back. They can come back in the race.
Yeah, you're saying Norris was 10th behind Verstappen on worn tyres, and obviously he was incredible in the Mexican Grand Prix. For me, the driver of the day, 100% with his overtakes. Do you think he can? Where do you think he can take this car on Sunday? Obviously, with his overtaking ability, we know that back straight is ridiculous as well. You could overtake everybody on that if you've got the speed to do so. Do you think he'll still be aiming for a podium starting in 7th?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it should be too much of a problem.
Yeah.
Considering the cars ahead of him, Mercedes, Aston Martin, these are all cars that Norris has proven to be faster, or McLaren in general have been faster than in recent races. So I wouldn't put my house on it, but you could fairly say that it's a good opportunity for him to still finish on the podium.
Yeah, Hamilton and Russell obviously 5th and 6th as well in good positions. Russell was reported in Q2. Is there any update on or any follow up on that from Ferrari driving too slow on the outlap? I'm guessing there was a report to the FIA.
Not that I've seen. Obviously, typical FIA fashion that could come out at maybe 9 or 10 o'clock tonight.
Of course, making this irrelevant.
Yeah, he's also under investigation as well for blocking somebody in the pit lane. I can't remember who in the pit exit. I think it could have been Stroll or somebody. So he'll be lucky if he doesn't get away with
Gasly. Yeah, Gasly on the pit lane. Yeah.
He'll be lucky if he gets away with no penalties, but I think there could be 1 or 2 coming at least for him.
Yeah. Again, where will that take him? Maybe in this grid, I don't even want to know. I mean, he's had a real struggle over the last couple of weeks. He was saying quite well in the pre interviews to this race, saying that him and Hamilton have never really had the same pace in a race. They've qualified well at times together, but they've never had the same race pace. They're always a bit of a gap. Before, I remember Hamilton struggling a lot at the start of the season, and Russell still continuing some sort of consistency from last year. And then obviously it's now switched around where Russell hasn't really been able to get performance in the race. So we'll see on Sunday if, where he's starting to begin with, but whether or not they can actually both be consistent and get major points. The cars going out of Q2, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Magnussen, Albon as well. These are the kind of cars you'd expect to be going out in Q2, to be honest. There wasn't, outside of Aston Martin, it didn't feel like there was many shocks in this qualifying session in terms of order.
No, not really. And, like you said, that was resembled in the results. Interlagos is a very funny circuit because you have two sectors, 1 and 3. They're really like straights. They're like almost like Monza, where it's just top speed and stuff. And then you have the tight sector 2, which is all about high downforce. So it's very hard to get a setup in the car properly, and especially when you only have one practice before you're going into qualifying. But like Alpine in particular, it just goes to show the characteristics of their car yet again, where they're quick in sector 2. The low speed corners and stuff like this, but then the minute they get into sector 3, that's where they lose all the time they've made up because of the deficit, or the so-called deficit they reckon they have with their power units. So no real surprises. The two Haas cars were looking quite quick in terms of qualifying laps, Hulkenberg in particular, but not really a shock to system there. Not like last year with Magnussen and Paulo or something,
Yeah, traditionally Hulkenberg's been actually decent at qualifying, and then in Q1, obviously both the AlphaTauris went out as well. Even more disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo because he had such a strong weekend last weekend, finishing in 7th, and now he's starting from 17th. It's going to be very difficult to get points from that position. Again, we know the pace of that AlphaTauri is really not there, especially for a circuit like this. And both of the Alfa Romeos out as well in Q1 as well. So not great for those two teams. But do you see? Again, there's no quick car at the back of this grid, so I don't know on overtakes what we're feeling we're going to get here. Maybe an Albon kind of performance in that Williams. I don't know. What are you looking at for the back of the grid for tomorrow, for Sunday, in terms of real overtakes and potentially climbing that grid?
Yeah, I think Albon's a good shout for points. We've seen it in Mexico where he qualified outside the top 10 or just about around the top 10 area, and he went on the alternate strategy and actually ended up finishing in the points. He looked particularly strong as the other car's tires went off on the mediums. So yeah, Albon's always a good shout. I think Williams are saying he might struggle a little bit here, but he's always a good look for pole. And outside of that, you can't really say much for the Haas because they're still struggling with their tire wear issues that they've been plagued with all year. And Alfa Romeo, Bottas, maybe he'll make up a couple of positions, but points, I think it'd be too much for Alfa Romeo, considering that they're starting right at the back. So
yeah, are we expecting rain in the race as well? More of what we got today.
There is meant to be, I think, more rain projected over the weekend, but it's not meant to be as bad. So I think most of it's going to come tomorrow, and I think Sunday will be relatively clear. But it's Interlagos. I mean, it could be like you've seen in the Q3. It could be sunny.
Yeah,
minutes there. It's
1 minute in.
1 minute there, it's pouring down. Yeah, so anything can happen.
Yeah, I think the most intriguing thing for me again in this race is that battle between Perez and Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship, and obviously after what happened in Mexico, there is a bit of a gap that is closing in on Perez, and because of his position starting in P9, he has got a rocket ship, but the cars ahead of him are no slouches, and if he doesn't, if Hamilton continues to close that gap on him this weekend, which he could well do, he's in a position to do so. Maybe he'll fancy the Aston Martins. We'll see how that goes. Those two ahead of him. This could get very sticky for Perez going into the last couple of races after what happened in basically the first turn in Mexico. So, I mean, if I had to ask you because we always do predictions for top 3, but if I was to ask you who is going to finish second in the Drivers' Championship from what you're seeing right now, and just a prediction right now, who are you banking on to finish in second?
I'd go for Hamilton, to be honest, because he's been looking really quick in the Mercedes, especially since they brought that upgrade in. And
could have won a race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think Hamilton can do it. And, there's a lot of reports through the media over the weekend about how Red Bull were saying it doesn't matter to us how Perez finishes P2 or P3. It doesn't rely on his future. But, as a driver, Perez will do anything he can to secure that P2. But, I mean, if he keeps dropping the ball like this, he's P9. He's, I don't know how many places behind Hamilton, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It's, and he still have 2 more rounds to go. It's one mistake and that's P2 gone.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, we have the sprint as well, and then Oscar didn't get a time in that Q3. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does on the race day as well, because he's had a really exceptional year for a rookie. But very interesting grid in terms of everything after Verstappen, as we always say. And it should be interesting. So, bro, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. And guys, make sure you smash up the likes. Make sure you subscribe. I have a feeling that this is going to be a very dramatic race. Like I said, everything after Verstappen looks tasty. We got a Ferrari sitting in second that is always fancy in a, you know, some sort of capitulation from the team in terms of their performance from good positions this year. And everything after that is anybody's guess. Who knows what's going to happen? So until then, we've got the sprint covered. We got the race covered. Until then, people, in a bit. Peace.